I'm alive. I have had a rough go of it the last few days, and I am gonna go ahead and say I'm not 100% yet. I had to open a window in here because like the paint fumes from my oil paints are actually like making me nauseous all over again. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, you might not know. I had a stomach flu starting like early Monday morning, stomach bug, whatever. Basically all of Monday I was completely out of commission. And even yesterday I was like not doing great. I mainly slept all day, but I swore to myself that today I was gonna make it happen because I have so much new makeup to try. And I've had the chance to like, you know, try it, like put my fingers in it. Like it's far too exciting for me to just like keep it in its package and like wait until I get on camera. So I've already had first impressions of these products that I'll be able to share as I go along. But I also took some questions from y'all on my Instagram. I asked for something personal. I was like, ask me some personal questions, and I haven't taken a peek yet at what y'all submitted. So this is all going to be stuff that's new at Sephora, and it just consequently ended up being some of my favorite like black owned brands that most of this order was from, with a couple of exceptions. So very fun stuff. Let's go ahead and jump in. So in order to make sure that everything is off to an auspicious start, and B, my skin is just, I don't even want to talk about it. Like I'm still just completely gray under the eyes. I look like my husband when he finished running a marathon. Like I just look really malnourished. I'm going to go in with my trusty rusty, my Chanel Sublimage Le Temps, but I am going to give it another shot with the KOSAS Glow IV, and I'm gonna go in with the deeper shade this time to try and use it to deepen the Chanel and give me just a little bit of like healthy richness to my skin. So we'll take a question while I do a very familiar foundation. This is not super personal, but such a great opening question. It's the first one that got submitted. I've been talking a lot about how indie sleaze is back and how like that was my era. I was not necessarily a full, like what people think of now as like emo band person, because things like, you know, My Chemical Romance or Paramore, or like, you know what I mean? Some of the more like pop punk goth, it means emo, you know, pop punk plus goth kind of. And for me, emo was more, well, let's just jump into it, okay? My favorite emo band is Saves the Day, but Saves the Day got not awesome because Chris, the lead singer, decided that he was just gonna start singing in a different voice one day, and I hated it. So my favorite album from Saves the Day is Through Being Cool. A lot of people, you know, if you really want to be like that person that's like, oh no, I like, you know, difficult listening, then they'll probably say they like Can't Slow Down. And if you got into them a little bit later, you'll probably say like, I like Stay What You Are. I can get into all of those albums, but I could listen to Through Being Cool over and over and over and over again. And like Tallahassee, where I'm from, it is just, honestly, like Through Being Cool, capital of the world. Like when it was past midnight and you were hanging out on somebody's porch and everybody needed something to sing along to, someone would turn on Saves the Day. Like you have to listen to Saves the Day when you're like road tripping in Florida. You just have to, even though they're from New Jersey, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Saves the Day is just like part of our like collective spirit. The thing is, okay, so I think that part of like being as pretentious of an emo kid as I was, because okay, indie sleaze thrives entirely, and you have to be all in on being such a huge jerk about your music taste, okay? And that's my like PG version of saying that. Like you gotta be a real turd about your music taste, and you gotta be willing to stand up for it, because that's like the entire foundation of like what you're gonna have in common with people. And like, you know, it's all about going to shows. And so I'm not saying that like that's a good thing. I'm just saying like that's what it thrives on. And what is that? You will get your buns handed to you if you get into a conversation like that and you aren't prepared. You know, it's kind of like going into the snatch game. Like if you're not ready, it's gonna show. And so, you know, that's kind of what we all ended up doing in our spare time. And you had to be really passionate about the music you listened to. And you had to be able to kind of talk about, I'm talking like, you know, the names of the lead singers, the names of all of the members, what they did. You know, it's like you needed to know who was the producer in Death Cab, or you needed to know who like was on a certain special project that, you know, was a derivative of another band. Like what's the difference between, I don't know, like Death Cab and Postal Service, you know, stuff like that. And then, you know, talking about like the differences between the albums, like regardless of whether you agreed with everybody around you, you needed to be able to hold your ground. So it's like if I were to be talking to like my friend Matt, for example, he was going to tell me in all of his pretense that he was a lot more obsessed with Can't Slow Down. And I would be like, look, like I get it. I like Jody, but the whole thing is a little bit too difficult for me. And the, you know, the power chords kind of wear me out. I'm way more into the selective guitar distortion in Through Being Cool, and I would rather listen to Rock's Tonic Juice Magic over and over and over again. That's just how I feel, you know what I mean? And it'd be like an agree to disagree kind of thing, but you hold your own. So like, you know, I was more of a fan of Death Cab for Cutie than I was the Postal Service personally, but it is all kind of an ego thing, you know? It really is about kind of presenting yourself a certain way. Like one of my most pretentious exes had the, like, the distinction of always falling in love with a band right before they sold out. So he like loved, oh my gosh, Snow Patrol, you know what I mean? Or he like was obsessed with Kings of Leon where they sold out kind of thing. But you know, there is something to be said for like knowing your references. And I remember, you know, it was kind of how people sparked conversations outside of context. You know, I'd be just like at the mall at like Victoria's Secret and like one of the employees walks up to me and she goes, do you like Modest Mouse? You know, it's just like, yeah, I want to talk about it. But that was also before Modest Mouse sold out. So the thing is, like, I have been a huge jerk about these things, but also I was very, very like passionate about the actual music. People would always kind of talk about, they're like, Khaki goes to shows by herself. That's so weird. And like my best friend Rob would be like, yeah, because she actually likes the band. Like, I was just that person who would go to a show by myself because I liked the band. Like I remember I was flying to Boston one time to see my friend and I still stayed out late the night before and like basically didn't sleep because I still had to pack because I went to see the first tour of Fleet Foxes. Oh my God, who else was it? I can't even remember, but it was when they were doing all that like mountain singing. You know what I mean? That was it. It was like that like Wild Mountain Man, you know, beard 3-part harmony core. Like I just like stayed out and I remember like getting to go to this really, really intimate Fleet Foxes show that was like, I don't know, 100 people, you know? I saw the Decemberists with, again, it was probably like, you know, a full venue, but it was a really small venue. And during the chimney sweep, they like came out into the crowd and they were like playing their instruments in the crowd. And everybody played along and like hunkered down to the ground. And, like, it was such an experience. I saw John Vanderslice at the Club Down Under in Tallahassee because there was a really, really great music venue that was actually like on campus. And John Vanderslice like just he was just really cool. He got really cool with the audience and like came outside into the actual like open area of the quad and like played acoustic out there for us. And then everybody went bowling because we have a bowling alley in the Florida State Student Union as well. So can't say enough about Florida State for like that experience. Like our student union had a Chili's, which would serve us liquor. Like you could walk in there any hour of the day and get a shot of Patron, okay? Like terrifying. And you could go then to the bowling alley where it was like $2.75 a game, like ridiculous. And you could get, you know, the bowling pin shaped beers. And then there was a free venue. My friends in the band Look Mexico, I still don't know I love y'all, Josh, Matt, I love y'all so much. I still don't know any of your songs because I was just too drunk at all of their shows. I rode a bike everywhere, and I lived so close to campus that I didn't actually go on a road. Like, I got to duck under a tunnel and like on my bike and just be on campus. So like, yes, I was drunk biking, but not on a road. I was just like on an empty campus at night, or like with my friends, but still like we were set up for success. Okay, I'm gonna go a different route with the concealer. So I'll go into more of the indie sleeves. I got some more questions on indie sleeves, which I think is really fun. I could talk about this stuff forever, but also I feel like it's a little bit alienating because I am at heart such a pretentious that y'all are like, some people are gonna be like, ew, ew, I didn't know that that was her. And like, I kind of hate people like that. So I'm sorry, we can become reformed. And I do think there is something really fantastic about becoming an adult who likes things, because there's something about indie sleeves. The big thing about indie sleeves is really not liking a lot of things and dismissing things as being uncool. And as you get older, liking things is really awesome. And I just like really unironically love, you know, Michael Bublé now, all right? I will very happily listen to Ariana Grande. You know, like I don't, those are the things, like I'm not pretentious like that anymore, but I do have some really, really cool things I can share from that time in my life. Because we're gonna be working with some Kulfi blushes today, I'm going to be using the Kulfi concealer. I haven't used this in a while and I love it. It's incredibly hydrating, and that's really what I need today because my skin is the absolute quintessence of sallow. So some cool stuff, that some name dropping I get to do here. And yes, I am a queen name dropper. Say what you want about me on Beauty Guru Chatter, but you know, I was in a relationship for about 3 years before I met my husband with a guy in a band who played backup for, in addition to being their own band, they were hired as the stage band for Daniel Johnston for a couple of years while he was still alive. And I had gotten to see him at South by Southwest, but I had never gotten to meet him before. And I got to meet him, and they all obviously got to meet him, you know, several times, but like I was drawing the show posters for a while, and I, you know, got to use his frog because I lived in Austin, and like that's Daniel Johnston's like stomping grounds. That's where we have the big, you know, murals of his art and stuff. And I've always just been a big fan of his, you know, kind of older eccentric kind of stuff, and just seeing him in person is such an experience. And the fact that like I got to have a conversation with him about the frog, you know, his hi, how are you frog, and like I had turned, the band was Capybara, and I got to, you know, turn the frog into kind of a hybrid with a capybara for the show poster, one of the show posters. And you know, he was like, you know, people get that thing tattooed on them. He's like, I never thought anybody would do something like that. It's so wild, you know. And it was kind of, you know, mentally deteriorating, and his brother was his caretaker, and they had just such kind of like a sweet but also, you know, brotherly relationship. And I'll never forget, you know, hearing that like the one thing that Daniel Johnston wanted to do when he went to every like town when he toured was just go to comic book stores and just buy as many comic books as he could find that he didn't already have. And I just like found that to be so endearing, and because he was very childlike. But I mean, especially now that he, you know, is sadly passed, it's just such an incredible thing to have, you know, had the pleasure to meet someone that's just such a legend like that. I love that Kulfi concealer. I love it, I love it, I love it. Oh boy, am I peely. I'm so peely. Software update, girl, read the room. I'm busy. So I got 3 of these Kulfi Mendy Moment blushes. I got the shade Lucky Lotus, Sandalwood Swirls, and then I haven't opened this one yet. It's called Pinky Promise. I can't tell you how nauseous I am right now. Like, it's not fair. So I'm gonna swatch them. This is a really cool formula because it's very matte, even though it's in a tube. So it's quite pigmented, like a really ideal amount of pigment, kind of like the cloud paints from Glossier, because, you know, a little bit goes such a long way. But they are very different consistency from the cloud paints. The cloud paints are very creamy, and then they do kind of go down to a semi like satin finish. But these are a little bit more kind of like if someone were to thin out, just barely like creamify, if that's a word, like whip the Rare Beauty bronzer. Because when this shears out, it goes like silicone powdery kind of. Reminds me a touch. They are a little thinner, but reminds me a little bit of the Lisa Eldridge blushes because it does have that kind of like silicone dry like finish when you touch it. I do think I need to put some like lighter concealer on my jawline. We ended up going a little bit too dark, but those shades, this is the purple one is Lucky Lotus, the pink one over here is Pinky Promise, and this is Sandalwood Swirl. I think we're gonna start with Sandalwood Swirl and see where we go. You know, they are quite vivid. Kulfi is, I think, a South Asian owned brand, and so, you know, these are some shades and some kind of saturation levels that are going to look good on, you know, medium to deep skin tones as well. So that's why I'm going to be extra ginger with them. So the only other thing that I want to touch on before, you know, because I want to save some of this stuff for my actual like indie sleaze look, right? Because I'm going to, you know, I think I've gotten a lot of requests to do a video that's, you know, indie sleaze makeup and whatnot. I'm trying to find the right brush here. I think I'm just going to use this one. This is the 109 from BK. This is such a pretty color. But when I first moved to Austin, I would never have even like known how lucky I was going to get with the people that I was introduced to. So my friend Erica lived in a house with, you know, just, it was a kind of a venue house with some other of my friends, my friend Briar, and I would just hang out there all the time and go to shows. And like, that's where when y'all saw that picture of me like playing on the drum set with Japanther on my Instagram, like that was where that was. And my friend Erica she had gone to school with and dated this guy, Josh. And, you know, she's like, hey, you know, let me introduce you to my ex because we're still on good terms. And, you know, maybe he can help you find a roommate. And he was like, actually, I need a roommate. And I was like, that's fantastic. And so I ended up just kind of like moving into their house, and it was him and my friend Chris King from This Will Destroy You. And so if you're a fan of This Will Destroy You, that was my roommate. I mean, one of the guys from there was my roommate, Chris. And got to know those guys pretty well for a little while. And then the people who were constantly kind of hanging out at our house were the people who worked at American Apparel with Josh. Josh now he's in LA, and he plays with Lou Rebecca. And if you haven't like watched Lou Rebecca live or on YouTube or anything, she is just absolute magic. She's such like an earth angel. Like that's the best way to describe her. And so, you know, I'm glad to see he's getting to like flex his muscles. So it was both the people that worked at American Apparel with him and like the extension of that. So like Mitch from Voxtrot worked backstock at American Apparel on Congress in Austin at the time. And like I had stayed in Amsterdam 2 days later than my study abroad program so that I could see Matt and Kim and Voxtrot play, I want to say the Paradiso. It was like the loft at the Paradiso. And then Jared Van Fleet kind of like stayed and hung out with us because I think he was kind of into my friend who was this Canadian model who I just met on we lived in the same dorm. And so like, it was kind of this full circle moment of coming back around and being like, oh wait, same people. And then the other kind of like, I don't know, extension from that group, because they were kind of from the Dallas area, was like Kyle from Survive, which most people are going to know Survive from Stranger Things. They do the entire soundtrack, you know, main theme and whatnot from Stranger Things. And yeah, like my best friend Katie has known him for like pretty much their whole life, and my friend Josh and everybody. So like Marcus, like they all just kind of, you know, like it's all just kind of this similar really nice kid crowd that just happened to be in my cohort when I moved. And it was just awesome to be just immersed in all this creativity. It made me want to just like breathe it in all the time. It was just a really fun time to be there. You know, that's kind of why I love gassing up my friends, is because I just tend to have friends who are like light years cooler than me. So I'm just like, look at them, look at my friends doing, they're so cool, you know? Such an Aries trait. We love to gas our friends up. All right, I'm taking a little bit of the Chanel Sublimage concealer here, and I'm gonna use that to kind of just lighten my jawline a little here. Blend that a little better. Oh, also, to name drop one more, when I was living in Kansas City, my friend Clayton from Tallahassee became the drummer of Montreal, and so I got to see of Montreal for free in Lawrence, which was just a really, really fun trip. My friend JLP was doing merch for them at the time, so it was just kind of a full circle moment. I don't know. I freaking love seeing of Montreal live. They're just, honestly, like pretty much all of the Elephant Six bands are like the bands I listen to now to this day. Like I listened to In the Aeroplane Over the Sea the other day while I was painting, and I was like, this album still slaps so hard. No wonder it is one of the few that has gotten like a 10 out of 10 on Pitchfork. So that's, you know, I don't know, like I feel like those are kind of the things that are in my blood at this point. And that show with Of Montreal was so cool because I can't remember whether they were opening for or being opened for by Janelle Monáe, but Janelle Monáe is from Lawrence? She's from Kansas, and all of her family was there, like in the row in front of us. And so like we're sitting there watching, and her family is going nuts. It was awesome. They were like so excited. And let me tell you, Janelle Monáe puts on such a show because she is that like Kansas City jazz, that like true American roots kind of jazz that is just absolutely like you feel it in your bones. Like it's just so, oh, it's so cool. So yeah, that was a really fun show too. I've seen, I mean, you name it. Like if they toured in between 2004 and 2012, I saw them. You know? And then, you know, you get into things that are just like not even emo bands, but you know, it's like if Zach Condon from Beirut would have walked up to me at any moment and said, will you marry me? I would say, I don't even know your middle name, but the answer is yes. Same for Andrew Bird. Well, that was one question and one product that's actually new. I'm going to go in with more probably of that Kulfi blush at some point, but I also have the new Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin blushes. So, all right. What would 13-year-old Khaki think of current Khaki? What was I like at 13? Ooh, look what I have. This is fun. So this just came, this is from obviously Tower 28, that is their packaging. And this is the Sculptino. It just came, and so this is their like contour. So let's do that. 13, what would that be? Like 7th grade or something, right? 8th grade? I would probably be completely stunned if I had, you know, been able to see into the future and see who I was going to turn out to be, because at that age, I was clinging to my faith so hard. Up through age 15, I was like super Christian and absolutely no shit. That's beautiful, by the way. Oh my God. Let me swatch that. It's kind of yellow looking, right? But it does balance out on my skin. How nice. Pretty, pretty. Okay. Yeah, so I was, you know, in Fellowship of Christian Athletes and like, you know, was victimized by Cry Night. Just the very typical Southern Christian experience. I feel like church was almost just a social thing, because like I met a lot of people going to church that like I know were not religious. They just kind of did it because their friends did it, like on Wednesday nights and stuff. And it was also kind of like free after school care for their parents, which is also fine. This is kind of a bronzer. So I feel the need to just kind of paint with it like it's a little bit of a bronzer. So anyway, yeah, I was really into it. I went to like Christian camp and stuff like that, and I was very into my faith. And so I think that like if I looked forward at myself right now, I'd be like, who does she think she is? I guess I would wonder. I would be like, well, but like what happened? And what actually happened is, you know, I of course was corrupted by my very first boyfriend, but I was very Christian when I met my first boyfriend, who I am, you know, friends with now. We're both, you know, grown people with children, but you know, we shared a lot of years together, and he was not religious. And I remember just like being able to have really candid conversations with him about not being religious. Let's see, I'm just gonna use this Make bronzer real quick to balance this out before I start putting on more blush. I was able to just be like, okay, but like, you know, really, really candid questions. Like, how are people not just like total, like out of control animals if they don't have like a God to be accountable to and things like that? And it was just like the, you know, these conversations that we were able to have where I literally had to then go to my Christian friends and tell them like, I'm not Christian anymore. And it wasn't just because my boyfriend had converted me. It was because like, I kind of went to my you know, trusted people at my church at the time, and I asked them, you know, these, again, candid questions, and they just shut them down. They were like, you're not allowed to ask questions like that, you know. And of course I was probably like not in a particularly good church if they're saying things like that, but they're like, you're really not supposed to ask questions like that. You're just supposed to like have faith and trust and, you know, follow the rules. And I was like, I don't want to. So I didn't, and I'm fine now. And it's no shade on anybody else. I do think that there is something really nice about knowing, or the idea of knowing, that you can kind of trust people to have a similar set of values to you as, you know, you are in like a church environment. I think that that's, you know, you make a friend in a church, you know that they're at least, you know, attempting to be above board in some certain way. And not necessarily always the case, but at least they're trying to hold themselves accountable. And so I think that that was like what appealed to me about it, was like that safety. But I'm doing all right now. I'm doing all right. And I found my own kind of pathways to faith. In my mother's words, I believe in everything. So I bought some of the new colors of the Danessa Myricks Vision Flush Glow color for all over the face. I thought that these particular colors looked more like eyeshadows. But now I'm realizing that I'm probably wrong about that assumption, because they are still very much like the Vision Flush formula and a lot less pigmented than I thought they were going to be. So Danessa Myricks does some really beautiful things with texture, and she really just leaves it open-ended as far as like, you know, how and where to use these things. What she does promise, of course, is that like they're going to be beautifully long wearing and tenacious on the skin, and they always perform, right? So that iridescent shade is called Fum, and the brown one is called Legendary. And I think I was just hoping that they were going to be a little more pigmented than that, because I'm very used to like the Vision, what are they called? The Vision Flush, like the solid ones, the matte ones. I have Nutcracker and I have Bread and Butter, and they're much more pigmented than this. So I am going to use them on my eyes, but I think that like they're not gonna be the final word. But to kind of like close the loop on that question, I look back and like there was something that never was up for debate for me, in spite of the fact that I, you know, considered myself a very devout Christian and really wanted to adhere to like, you know, no sex before marriage and stuff like that, which I did not end up adhering to, in case anyone's playing along at home. I never, ever, ever thought that I don't know, whether the Bible interpreted it or not, like I never saw queerness, as it's known now, of, you know, of any kind, to be wrong in the eyes of the God I believed in. My mom kind of went with the flow a little bit with her mother-in-law, my grandmother, who I was really, really close with, but they had some, you know, pretty closely held Catholic beliefs when I was young. Everybody kind of loosened up on them over the years, but I was baptized Catholic as a kid, and I remember going to Catholic, you know, Sunday school. And I remember very specifically the day that I came home and told my mom about our lesson on original sin. I didn't complete this point. When we got a lesson on original sin, they told us that the reason that there was sin in the world was because of women, because Eve committed the first sin, and therefore it was like women's fault for being the temptation of the world, and like it was real problematic. I left that out, but that's the way that this story makes sense. And she took us out and to a different church that day, like that week. We started going to the church that she had gone to as a kid, which I still don't have really great memories of, okay, I'll be honest. It was very much a popularity contest, and I have never won a popularity contest. Well, except in college, but it didn't feel that way. But yeah, like, you know, in the whole like Southern social spheres, like that's never been a place I particularly fit in. I'm just a little bit too much of a weirdo, a lot too much of a weirdo. And I just never really felt like I belonged, and I always felt like it was a place that there was just a lot of social pressure, and I just kind of wanted to be alone. You see, I'm just building that color up, Fum, but it's just giving me like the lightest wash. Like maybe it should go on top of something, you know? Maybe I'll go in with my Hindash color fluid and then go on top of it with the brown, because at least then we'll be able to see like what it looks like when it's on top of some opacity. I don't feel like I'm doing the most justice to this formula right now because I'm kind of applying it like it's more, you know, pigmented and saturated than it is. All that to say, my mom always, I feel like, was very, and I mean, probably my dad too. I don't really know. I never talked to him about it, but like my parents were never, ever, ever judgmental about like sexuality or anything like that. It was just not, it was just something that was very well communicated in my family that, you know, that's just not the basis on which anybody is allowed to judge somebody else. And I'm not gonna say we are like the highest of moral character in my family, okay? No, but that was something where it was like, I remember very distinctly as a kid, my mom being like, you know, we're gonna love whoever you bring home, male or female. And I was like, what? Like, even at that age, I was like, what are you, what? Okay. You know, it didn't even occur to me. And so, you know, I was very like, just, it was never in question in my mind. And I do really like, I'm very grateful for just that understanding that it's just like, no, politics weren't necessarily first and foremost discussed in my family, because my parents did, it was another time where you could marry across political spheres. My dad was like a Democrat for Nixon, you know, he still had like the campaigning vest and everything, but still it was just understood that like that was just not something that was the grounds to judge someone, you know. There's a little bit of, that's Thorn. I don't know, it's gonna be a subtle look today, but that is setting down the Danessa Myricks, which is good. And I still just like, my urge is to go in with a powder because it's hard for me to just sit here and play with liquids, but I'm gonna try and stay with it. So yeah. I mean, my mother is very like spokes on a wheel kind of person, where she's like, I think that, you know, everybody's out here and we're all just finding our way to the same answers. And I'm just very grateful to have had, you know, such open-minded influences in my life, as well as like growing up with people who were like my best friends that I was very, very close with, were also extremely open-minded, and like probably even more so than I was at the time. And I think that like, if I were to look back at it like on some kind of, you know, timeline, I do feel like it was all pretty inevitable that I arrived where I am, especially from a faith standpoint. But I think 13-year-old me would be like, huh, I'm gonna need a play-by-play. Yeah, I'm a little underwhelmed here. I need to move this closer. Your girl's eyesight is not amazing. Like, you know, it's the color of Naked Bronze from Tom Ford, but it's got the consistency of like a lip balm that dries down. See if the finger is a little, that's a little better, but like the brush picks up so much of it that it's really, really difficult to like get the effect. Oh, it just looks so splotchy. I'm gonna have to go in with a powder in a minute. And just, let's just do this to both eyes. Cause like, I wish I could get it to do that, but that's not the answer. It's just not gonna do that and stay that way. Cause I bought it obviously because it's like my ideal kind of bedroomized brown color. That's not the worst. Wait a second, maybe I can get it to dry like that. That's not the worst. I'm patting, so it's leaving it behind. It's not the worst. I don't know, maybe it kind of is the worst. I do think that there is a much easier way to accomplish the appearance of this than what I've done. Let's just put it that way. I'm gonna take something a little bit fluffier. That is gumming that brush up pretty badly. Just try and spread that out a little. Like, it's not that I didn't know that that was gonna do that. I just kind of hoped to be pleasantly surprised, I guess. Anyway. I still hail Danessa Myricks as the queen of texture. Like, that's still just incredibly beautiful. It's just not quite as much pigment as I was hoping for. Again, knowing this formula in its like matte variety, so not bad, but I definitely think we need something else. Let's take another question and I will start kind of working into this with some other colors here. What was elementary school like for you? Oh man, I was a star. Maybe I'll just go in with my bronzer. I think that that's probably the best way to go about this. So yeah, I'm gonna go back in with the Make Beauty bronzer here and just kind of pull the warmth out of here. So I was very early on a gifted artist, you know, good at rendering things. And so that's kind of what I was known for. I don't know if I liked that because I liked the coolness that that was giving. So maybe I'll go into my Makeup by Mario palette and pull a little bit more coolness into it because it's still out sitting here from my bridal tutorial. Like, do you see how kind of warm that is? It works, but it kind of takes away from what I was trying to achieve here. Now it almost looks purple, right? So I'm gonna go in with this gray shade in the crease and see if we can kind of reestablish that tone value. So kindergarten, right after kindergarten, I was tested for gifted. And then I got to feel extremely special when in first grade they came and told me that, you know, I was being taken out of class so that I could go be in the gifted class, which was going to learn a grade level ahead in math, which is hilarious because I did not belong a grade level ahead in math. The only reason I was a grade level ahead in reading is because my sister is a year older than me. And so I just knew everything that she was learning, basically, because I was just always there. So it's not that I was like particularly like gifted any more than anybody else. It was just that I had been exposed to the curriculum earlier. And I'm only 13 months younger than my sister. So like there's no reason that it's not like I was, you know, unable to like talk when she was learning all this stuff. And my sister is not gifted in math. And so I was not learning math early on. And it just wasn't something that I was hugely interested in. When I did my SAT, I scored 10 points higher in math than I did in English, but they were neck and neck. I'm gonna go in, just kind of dampen that a little bit with this kind of nice creamy shade up here, kind of blend everything. That's the other thing that I don't love about working with a liquid shadow, is just that it doesn't end up being opaque enough, and I like the blur. I like the blur. See, the blur is everything. Okay, so the other thing I want to do here, because this is what it drew to mind, seeing that shade right there and seeing how I wanted to pull kind of the gray and the kind of cool quality that that took on my eyes, it was to go into this shade right here because it has like a taupe shift, kind of cool silver to it. Yep, perfect. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I've kind of been looking for the chance to use this particular one. Oh my God. Oh, ugh. That color makes me weep. So I was winning a lot of like art contests and stuff, and they actually threw like an art day specifically for me. I sound horrible right now because like I got into middle school and like things did not follow suit, okay? But like elementary school, I was a bit of an art star, as the AAS would put it. And I just remember those times fondly. I remember when people would they would always look at me, they'd be like, wow, you're a good drawer. Did you trace that? I'm like, no. And they're like, are you gonna be an artist when you grow up? And I was like, I don't even know what that means, you know? So the answer apparently is yes. Which I never saw coming, honestly. You're a good drawer. Oh boy. But I was also, y'all, I won't say that like I would diagnose myself as like being on the spectrum necessarily, especially because for people on the spectrum, it certainly has played out the amount of like internet things that want to diagnose you as being on the spectrum. I find it a little bit troubling actually, because I'm like, there are people who have gone their entire lives trying to get a diagnosis, but here's the internet being like, oh, are you a little bit of an introvert? You're probably autistic. It's like, internet psychiatry is just not, it's not the real thing. So anyway, I wasn't that, I don't think, but I will say I didn't get it. I didn't get it, okay? Like everybody just seemed to get something that I didn't get. Socially and everything, like I was just kind of, even through like middle school, I was just kind of the kid that made everybody uncomfortable. I laughed too loud and I said the wrong things at the wrong times. I blurted things out. Like I just had really bad impulse control. So that's why I am the way that I am today. And there's something that I've just had to learn about myself, and that is that there are certain parts of me that I just can't suppress. And it's better that I don't drink a lot in mixed company. So I don't really drink a lot anyway anymore. All right, I am really digging that eye look. I do have a new mascara today. It's from Colé, and I've already used it, and spoiler, it's so pretty. It's so pretty. So I'm gonna go in with my eyeliner and my brows real quick, and then we'll jump to this. I'm gonna use Ash again from Victoria Beckham because I feel like just the slight coolness of this look is going to lend itself beautifully to this gray, like light wash of eyeliner. We are ready for the mascara of it all. And then we'll do some more blush, and I have a new lippy as well. So let's look at some more questions. Do you fear aging as a beauty YouTuber? No, I have made peace with the fact that it's kind of always gonna cost me some money to maintain what I like to see. But that doesn't mean that I always want things to stay exactly the same. I mean, obviously, like, I'm always gonna lament, right? The whole like, oh, 10 years ago, my skin did all these things on its own and it doesn't bounce back as quickly now as it used to and things like that. But I think that there's so much to be said for just doing the things that make your skin look supple, right? And for me, I'm willing to pay the money and honestly like have a really like close relationship with my esthetician to, you know, make sure that I'm getting my peels and using like the good hydrating skincare and stuff. And outside of that, like, yeah, I'm doing my Botox and I'm doing my my lip filler, and there's just always going to be that investment. But honestly, it's to make me look how I want to look and would have wanted to look regardless. Not so much about trying to like keep me young, and that's probably, you know, that'll come into more perspective as I actually get older and like start panicking, but I'm not afraid of it. My like kind of off the cuff little quote that I made, I kind of, you know, quipped, I said, it beats the alternative. You know, I love aging because it beats the alternative, has kind of traveled the internet a little bit lately. Like, I've seen a lot of people quoting that. I mean, I didn't originate it, but I do say it quite often. And it's just that, like, aging is a privilege. All the time, I think my biggest fear is that getting cut short, you know, especially because I have this beautiful child now. I want to be there for every single moment. Aging feels like even more of a privilege than it ever has. And like, I want to be a grandparent, like that kind of thing, you know? And if you want to be a grandparent, you have to come to terms with the fact that you're gonna look different then, you know? And I read a book a while ago because I have an obsession with Caroline de Maigret, who, like, you know, she's this model, this Chanel model who, you know, is now, I think, in her 50s. And she was one of the co-authors of this book of How to Be Parisian Anywhere or whatever. And like, I took what I wanted from it, left behind a lot of other things. One of the things was like, be grateful for what you look like now, because in 10 years you're going to look back and wish you had. And I'm always trying to think of myself 10 years ahead thinking, my God, was I beautiful at 35, you know? And I'm always, I said this a lot in the past, and I don't know if I say it often enough now because it tends to kind of blow people's minds. We love a future version of ourselves all the time. Like, I'm going to improve. We love a past version of ourselves all the time. Like, oh, I used to be so beautiful. But that makes it so that we are excluding the present, which is the only thing that's actually real, is like the continuous now. And so if we never learn to love ourselves in real time, not a future or past version of ourselves, we will never actually experience loving ourselves, period. It will only ever be in the abstract. So you have to learn how to love yourself right now, or you will be on your deathbed and go, I wish that I had valued every moment of my natural human beauty. And who wants to have that regret, you know? Like, I love what I see in the mirror. I love my kind of like, you know, weird saggy butt and like my belly that had a baby, and there's just the things that are unique about me. I was hit by a car. I've got scarring. I've got like, you know, my hair is missing right here because I got slammed into a windshield and stuff. Like I wouldn't want to do that again, but at the same time, like, you know, these are all kind of part of my story, and I love who I am, and I love everything that, you know, I love who I am in the mirror, and I love the potential of being able to embrace each decade of my life in a new kind of era of visual representation. I look at someone like Iris Apfel, and she's just like this amazing, oh, what's the word? She's just a very like concentrated version of herself. It's like the older she gets, the more full and rich her entire personality becomes. And like, that's the kind of thing, I just want to be an amalgamation of all my stories. And I think that that's what real beauty is. So no, I'm not afraid of aging. So I got 2 shades of the Yummy Skin here, and they, okay, so it's called the Yummy Skin Blurring Balm Powder Flushed. And so it's the blush version, and I've used one of them, I haven't used the other color. It's the blush version of the Yummy Skin powder, right? The blurring balm powder, which I have really, really grown to love. We might even use a little bit under my eyes today, because it just kind of gives an all-in-one finish, as if you have used, you know, a complexion product, a powder, and then hit it with a setting mist, and it just kind of breathes and lives with your skin because of the upsolite that's in there. Now, the thing that I saw online when I saw these that like made me not want to try them initially is just how vivid the colors are. But I remembered that this goes on a lot more gently than you would think. Like, this color actually looks too dark for me in the pan, and when it goes on, it's actually a touch light for me. And I will say, I'm not sure that that rule goes to the blushes. So I'll go ahead and swatch them. They're really intense. They're as intense as I expected them to be. And not just intense in pigmentation, but intense in their color value. Like, that is not a subtle pink. That is not a demurring kind of like nuanced orange. Like, they're really literal. And like, that is going to, as I predicted, work better on deeper skin tones. Not that deeper skin tones don't deserve more subtle shades, but usually when I'm talking about subtlety, I'm talking about stuff being grungier, having a little bit more like gray or beige mixed into it, which translates to ashy on deep skin. So the vividness is actually going to, you know, be a little bit more muted on very deep skin than it would on mine, because of things like opacity. So as much as I want to use this like orange today, I just think it's a bad idea, okay? I think that this is like the best we're gonna do today in terms of getting something wearable by using this blush, and I am kind of hell-bent on using it today. Like, this is the perfect brush for this, I think, I hope, is the 112 from BK, because it's super like loose, you know, it's not dense, and it's also angled, so it's hopefully going to fluff as much as you can fluff a cream product onto the skin. Now, because this has like that upsolite, that kind of synthetic, it's sort of a silicone, I want to say, in there, it's probably gonna be pretty similar to these Kulfi blushes, but I like the colors of the Kulfi better. Yikers! Oh my goodness gracious. It's just a lot. It's just a lot. It's just a lot. We're being really careful. The color is just so on the nose. The color is so on the nose. It's so hot pink, and like, it's fine, we'll make it work, but it is exactly what I feared. It's just not for me. It's just not for fair-skinned people who want a subtle blush moment, okay? It's just not. So here's what we're gonna do. It's not bad. It's not bad, and I still don't have that much blush on, but I'm hoping that maybe if we use a little tiny, teeny, itsy bitsy bit of this Lucky Lotus shade from Kulfi, we can Kulfi this off a little bit. Look at how when I hold purple up, how it changes the entire color profile of my whole makeup look. See, it like pulls the purple, the cool tone out of my lips. that's what I want. Although I do have an opaque lip color that we're going in with today. We're gonna see how that goes. But I'm telling you, like, you need hardly any of this. Now, what does interest me about the Kulfi ones is how some of them seem to be, they all have the same texture, but they don't all have the same finish, because this Lucky Lotus has a tiny bit of iridescence to it. Interesting. And I'm pulling like the most gentle, subtle wash of that off the back of my hand, because I did use it on my fingers the first time that I tried it and it was too much. But anybody who has both a deep skin tone and extraordinarily warm undertones, we're talking like, you know, hard orange red basically, and everything turns like wildly pink on you, go for something this gosh darn purple, because it's going to, especially like, you know, that beautiful like Indian, South Asian, like rich orangey red undertone, or even like a rich golden undertone. This is going to pull the most beautiful, healthy flush of like a neutral, very pretty kind of, you know, beigey pink. Because you see it's still going a little bit pink on me, or it's a lot. It's just a lot. So what's happening really overall here, like the thesis of this entire look is, I am using a lot of brands that were formulated specifically for someone other than me, first and foremost. And I think that, like, in fact, I always say this, there is something really beautiful about that, because brands that kind of rush to the middle, a lot of times don't end up pleasing anybody. And so when something very much isn't for me, it's a good sign that it's very much for someone else. And it's not that I can't make this work, it's just that, like, it kind of lacks the subtlety that I need. Okay, this is not Pat McGrath flirtatious. It just isn't. So I'm not mad at it, but it does need a little bit of doctoring, and I do have to kind of adjust my eyes a little bit because it's just kind of a lot. Like, despite my best efforts, when I've put this on, like each color, my whole face takes on the quality of that color. So I'm going to go in with a little bit of the Danessa Myricks, just the regular skin tone color, and hopefully kind of at least corral this to just my cheeks, because right now I am living with a little bit of pink/purple face. And let's grab another question while I kind of do my finishing touches here, and then we'll go in with the lip. Would you do the pregnancy thing again? I'm terrified. I don't know whether you're saying that you're terrified of pregnancy or terrified of doing pregnancy again, but the answer is no. But it's not just because I don't want to do pregnancy again, it's because I don't want 2 children. 1 is the right amount for us. We not only, you know, try and give ourselves enough like space in all of our lives that everything kind of feels at least somewhat doable, and for everybody that's different, but also Simon is a lot like me. He just doesn't love other people that much, and I want to extend the courtesy to him of like noticing that about him. It's, we gotta warm something up about my cheeks. There's just something very strange happening here with that purple. So we can tell, you know, we took him with us to North Carolina over the weekend to visit some friends, and you know, there was this, our friend's little girl, and she really wanted to show him all of her toys, you know, and like had some outdoor toys and stuff like that. And it's not even that he's necessarily like selfish and he doesn't want to share or something. He's just like not that interested in playing with other people all that much. And I was the exact same way. And so like he just kind of does what he wants to do. And I think that that independence is something that I want to actually encourage. Like when I was a kid and I took that gifted test right before 1st grade, my mother loves to tell me this story about how when they, you know, came to her after the fact, they advised her like, put her in as many team and group activities as you possibly can, because she is going to be perfectly fine on her own. Like she's not in and of herself like going to ever have the motivation to be like a joiner. And they were right. But I look back on that and I'm like, why was like the instinct to go against it, you know? Like I get it. I get that they like wanted to make sure that I was, I guess, well-rounded, but like, I don't know. I don't really think you can like counter your nature that much in that respect. But I look at Simon and I'm just like, you know, he really loves his independence. He really, really likes to make his own decisions. He likes to do what he wants to do and have his projects for as long as he does them and things like that. And I just think he's kind of like made to be an only child. All that to say, I think that, you know, people who want multiple children, pregnancy is more or less a means to an end. But I did have one of the more miserable pregnancies that I have like talked to any of my friends about. And I mean, we've all had some miserable pregnancies, and this is not a like struggle competition, but like, no, I would never do that again, ever. Pregnancy sucked. All right, I think we managed with the bronzer, and I'm using a little bit more of the Tower 28 contour. Y'all are watching me really tackle some color theory challenges in real time here. I think we managed to bring it into something that looks a little bit more like my face. I also didn't get a chance to like, I'm jabbering so much, I didn't get a chance to speak to this as I was putting it on. This is one of the prettiest mascaras I've ever used. This Colé mascara. Holy crap, look at the curl. Look at the beautiful lightness and the perfect synergy between length and volume. It gives me just enough visual impact. It's a matte black, which I love. And the curl, oh, and it's so soft to the touch, y'all. Instant obsession. This is just so easy to like, and it doesn't like run or go anywhere. I love it. It's so good, and I love this orange. This orange package is so easy to find. It's so nice. I like the brush. It goes on so easily. As much as Hannah loves a Colé so far, and as much as Hannah loves a good mascara that just kind of builds infinitely and is just like a really rich black, invest. It's not even that expensive, but like for Hannah, everything is an investment because she has to think about actually parting with the money with her automatic no. Chalk it up to your channel's budget, girl. This is good mascara. So hopefully the last thing that I've got here, this new LYS lipstick. So this is the, oh God, it's so tiny. Y'all, I will never be able to read what that says, but it's in the shade Moody, and they stuck with their original, like their nice soft triangle cross section concept. And I love the component. This was like the main reason I bought it, was because this component has the kind of leather look on two sides and then the regular pink chrome on the other, like the rose gold chrome. I love it. And the shade is Come On. It's going to either make or break this look, but regardless, it's such a beautiful color. Hopefully it all goes together. And y'all know, honestly, like the little tiny precise bullets like this are my kink. They're like Virginia Slims. There's just something so like, I don't know. I'm not a smoker. I've never smoked a Virginia Slim, but they were supposed to be like the women's cigarette because they were like, you know, tiny. That's what this feels like to me. And like there is a whole line of lip liners that came out with this collection, but this is so tiny. I don't even feel like I need that. My lips are not the healthiest they've ever been at the moment, so don't blame that on the formula. But that's kind of how it looks when you've taken the time to try and get it really nice and even, but I am more of a fan of it blotted on me. But it's super comfortable, incredibly lightweight. You know, it's the cheeks for me. They're just being really weird. The blush is really throwing me off. Let's try a little bit of Creamy Peach from Makeup by Mario and see if that helps at all. I don't know. Oh boy, I don't think that helped. Okay, I'm gonna just give myself a good old spritz here. And we're going to chat through these products and my thoughts on them thus far. I am going to do, as I typically do, a full roundup of my final thoughts on everything that I've been trying lately, probably like, end of the week or maybe beginning of next week. But this is definitely like a second impressions and definitely the first time that I've gotten them all on the same face of makeup together. Okay, I have now tried powdering it. It's just getting gummy. I don't want to talk about it. All right, let's go through these. We're not gonna talk about my actual foundation, but I will talk about the KOSAS Glow IV. I think that might be its best use case, but It's still glittery, which is like everyone's complaint with it is how glittery it is. It really is. Like, it will leave glitter kind of everywhere. And for that reason, I think I'm kind of over it because there are so many shimmer goos out there. I am quite the cynic about shimmer goos overall, but I would far rather use something like the Victoria Beckham Golden, what is it called? The Cell Rejuvenating Primer to deepen my foundation shades, or the Vita Liberata one, the skin enhancer or whatever. Like, those are both really great deepeners if you need just a subtle shift in shade. But this is, be warned, it is quite glittery, not quite my personal thing, regardless of shade. Let's talk about the blushes. Let's talk about them, okay? So, I think everything really went sideways when I tried to use these Danessa Myricks blush balm powder things. The original impression that I got from these when I first saw them online, as you know, an array of shades, definitely bears out. And that is that these are beautiful. These are not made for fair skin tones. Full stop. They're going to overwhelm your skin pretty much no matter what, okay? And I am a blush addict. I am a person who loves to put on tons and tons and tons of blush, but I put so little of this on and it all happened so fast that it's not bad. It's not too dark. It's just meant for someone else, not me. And there's something really incredibly beautiful about them. I think that the formula itself is incredible, super beautiful, going to give the right skin tones a beautiful finish and a long wearing actual level of pigmentation, because that's something really beautiful about this formula. It's very tenacious, but it's just not meant for me. And a lot of things aren't meant for me, but I can get them to work. This falls all the way on the end of the spectrum of not made for me, and also I cannot get it to work. Now, these Kulfi ones, I think I can get them to work. I think that they were not the problem solvers necessarily that I was hoping for them to be, especially the purple today. But I think that for another, like, not every single one of them is as adaptable to my skin tone as like this one was, but the Sandalwood Swirls shade is so beautifully subtle that I felt like I probably could have left it alone or just added more of it, and it would have complemented this entire look better than what I ended up with. And I think that the formula is off the charts gorgeous. It's so easy to work with. It's so, again, it has that nice tenacity to the actual color because it's not a super emollient cream. It's actually quite silicone based. And so it really spreads easily on top of just about anything. And it really stays true on the skin. And then you definitely saw that with the purple one. Now, the other thing about the purple one, and I'm not sure how it's going to translate shade to shade, but it has a shift to it. It has a little bit of like a glimmer, a little bit of something to it that is iridescent. I don't think that it's glittery at all, but it does put a different texture on the finish versus the other one. I don't really know why that is. And then we didn't get to use Pinky Promise because obvious reasons. We were already getting towards pink face pretty darn quickly, full steam ahead. But I do intend to make more use of these, whereas I just don't feel like I'm probably ever going to touch those Danessa Myricks ones again, just because like I truly, in all of my experience working with makeup, I just don't think that there is a way to make those colors work on me in their full vivid saturation the way that they are currently. Whereas with these, I think I can construct looks around them and get them to work. This just is not the color adjusting purple that I would typically go for me. You know, it's not Fenty Drama Class, but that's just kind of a difference shade to shade, I feel like, in terms of kind of who can wear it and who it's for. Of the ones that I tried, I think that this one can work on pretty much everybody. And it goes with this lip color really well. If I had known that ahead of time, I think I would have stuck specifically just with this one, because the way that that shade complements this, I mean, I could have worked it into my eye look too, but I'm afraid at this point we just have too gosh darn much makeup on. I don't think that it's going to be possible. All right, the Danessa Myricks, I feel like I'm kind of coming up empty on Danessa Myricks stuff today, but I don't want to say it's the fault of the products. I really feel like they were just formulated for something that I was expecting them to do, something different than I was expecting them to do. So this being the Vision Flush formula, something that, again, in their cream format, in the more matte formula, They're really pigmented and beautiful and can be worn in a lot of different ways, and I love the versatility of them. I will say that this new glow formula, not as versatile as I was hoping for. You know, I could probably get this to go on as like a highlighter. Should we do that just to like screw with life right now? Just try and get this to be a highlighter? That's an absolutely awful idea. Let's do it. But like, I think this is more what it's meant for, you know? Is to be used like as a highlighter on the cheeks that's not gonna go anywhere. And I think that that brown is probably meant to be more like a really good deep bronzer than an eye look. And for that, this is absolutely gorgeous. Do you see? And it actually starts to pull from the eye look because I did have some of that on the inner corner. And like, that's the problem. The problem was user expectation error. These very much are meant, I mean, nothing's meant for anywhere specifically in her line, but you're not gonna get the color impact that you would from one of her Twin Flames or the Color Fix foils from her. They're just not gonna do that. I really feel like this is what they're meant for. So just bear that in mind. And obviously the Makeup by Mario, you know, to the rescue. As far as I'm concerned, I feel like it kind of brought the colors together. The LYS lip color, I feel like it is a beautiful shade. It is a beautiful component. It is, look at the little embossed branding on there. It's a beautiful formula. I don't know if my lips are in the right condition to wear this way today. I'm really into brown lips right now, and brown does tend to go a little bit red on me anyway. And I feel like this is just it's just such a pretty color. Like honestly, if it weren't in this teeny tiny little thing, I would be, you know, I'd have the urge to put it on my cheeks as well. But I think all together, if it's a matte lip you're looking for, this is a fantastic matte lip. And I guarantee for LYS's typical pricing, I bet you it's very affordable. And I do recommend it. It's incredibly comfortable to wear. It looks good built up or blotted. I just think that like it is very typical of a matte lip in the sense that it's going to call out the dryness if that's something that you're struggling with, which is definitely something that I'm struggling with. I am struggling with dry everything at the moment because stomach flu. So in the meantime, I'm gonna put a little bit of this clear gloss from Prados on. So now you can see the trueness of that color on my skin because I feel like it's a really, really good color on me. And all told, is this my favorite look I've ever done? No. Nope. No, it is not. But I do feel like I got the full experience of the products, definitely enough to both share them with you from my perception standpoint, but also for you to get a visual representation of some of the struggles that someone with a very fair, neutral skin tone might have with some of these products, the shades specifically. So yeah, I hope that this was fun and valuable for you. God, I am loving that lip now with the gloss on top, okay? Woo! That fired me right up. And I hope that y'all enjoyed the, you know, fun kind of anecdotes and insufferability, personal insufferability that I got the opportunity to share with y'all today. Sorry if you had to skip through me being just really, really awful. But yeah, if you enjoyed this, please do give it a thumbs up. If y'all want to keep hanging out with me on this channel, especially if you made it all the way to the end of my extremely long videos lately, like longer than usual even, I just have so much to say, then definitely subscribe while you're here because they're mostly like this. It's just something fun to have in your feed. And I will throw a video up here that I think that you will enjoy. I picked it out especially for you. Also, go follow my art account and, you know, buy my paintings if you so desire. I need to post this one. I haven't posted it yet, but I've gotten a lot of requests about it already. So that's where I post my paintings, and I want to thank y'all for being here. I love you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.